Hi, welcome. This is the first episode of my podcast for Catholic Nurse Coach. My name is Nicole Haugen, and I'm your host for the podcast. So I thought I would start with the first podcast just being a little bit about me, an introduction to me and how I got into coaching, and a little bit of my life story and background. So my name, like I said, is Nicole Haugen. I was born as a Heinle, Nicole Heinle. My parents, Sonny and Bob, I was raised on a ranch in North Dakota, pretty much the middle of North Dakota. We lived about 20 miles from the nearest town, which is not a big town. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 12,000 people, maybe less. So everywhere we went, we had to drive far. I have an older sister, Raquel, and a younger brother, Luke. I'm a cradle Catholic, and growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but we always had the things we need. And I would say we always, for the most part, felt loved. And we grew up playing games, a lot of card games, a lot of board games. We fought a lot with each other. There was a lot of arguments, a lot of crime, but there's also a lot of love in our home. So like I said, we're from small town, rural North Dakota. So very small town was where we went to high school. And in my graduating class, we had 10 kids total. So that included me. And my husband was also one of those 10 kids. So I graduated in 2005, and then I went to school. I was going to be a dental hygienist. And I started my first year of college, just kind of getting in the basics. And then I had a friend who was in the nursing program, and listening to her talk, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a nurse. That's my passion. That's when I remember calling my mom, and I was so excited, being like, I'm going to switch. I'm going to be a nurse. And she's like, yeah, that fits you. That's better. So I think she knew that I wasn't going to be a dental hygienist, but she was nice enough not to say anything and not to tell me any different. So decided to go for nursing. In 2000, the program I was in, it was a 1-year LPN school, and then you got your associate degree afterwards. It was a 2-year RN school. So I got my LPN school license in 2007, I believe, and then graduated with RN in 2009. Took my boards that summer, so became a RN. And then that fall in 2009, my husband and I got married. So following year, I was working overnights at a nursing home. And then I got to switch over to some PM shifts, like after we got married, like kind of shortly after we got married. And my husband was working nights at the time. So for the first couple months of our marriage, like we didn't really see each other a ton with our alternating work schedules. But we saw each other enough because we were expecting our first child about 3 months into our marriage. And so 3 weeks after our first year anniversary, we ended up having our first child. And then we went on 18 months later, then we had baby number 2. 22 months after that, we had baby number 3, and so on and so forth until we had 6 kids in less than 9 years. So I would say that our marriage was probably pretty rocky from the start. We were young when we got married. I was 22 and he was 23. So pretty young. Started having kids right away. It was mostly survival mode almost all the time. And like I said, we worked opposite shifts. And then we moved after we had our first child, and we moved to a town closer to our hometowns. And then I started working as a hospice nurse, and then he started working at a local grocery store, and he would work around my shifts. So I was working more days, but then he would go in the evenings and work till closing. So again, I'd be out the door, I'd come in the door, he would go out the door, come in at night, we'd go to bed, start it all over the next day. So we didn't have a lot of time, or we didn't take a lot of time to have conversations. I would say we didn't really even dream about what our future looked like. We were just basically surviving and having kids. So like I said, I was working at hospice at the time, and I love hospice. That's my passion for nursing. I just love it. I then decided, once we had our fifth child, I was like, it's just getting to be a lot with all the kids. It's a lot to handle, a lot to manage. So I took some time off, but then there was a job that came open at our local parish. So then I took the job as religious coordinator for our local parish. And I did that for 3 years. So again, this whole time I would work, and that was full time, but I had to work part time at the church. So was home still working part time with 5 kids. None of them were school yet at that point in time. No, I take that back. One started kindergarten that fall when I started working there. So one was in school. Otherwise, they were home all the time with us. We were still working opposite shifts. So again, a lot of stress, a lot of chaos, not a lot of time for each other. So what I'm going to my point with this is I was always unhappy. I would say even probably miserable. I was just tired all the time. When my husband and I did talk, we were fighting. It was just a lot. Wasn't really satisfied in the marriage. Thought, well, when the kids are sleeping through the night, then our marriage will be better. Or, if we weren't working opposite shifts, then we would have a good marriage. I was exhausted from being pregnant, breastfeeding, and working at a stressful job. We were financially strapped. It was just a lot of different things. So in 2019, that was probably that was the hardest year of my life. I was pregnant with baby number 6. My dad had been diagnosed with cancer when I was pregnant with our first child. So he had it for about 10 years at that point in time. In 2019, though, in the spring, we knew that his cancer had progressed to the point where it was at the end stage. He could no longer walk. He was no longer doing any aggressive treatment. So he was on hospice then. Our 6th child was born in June, and then 6 weeks later, my dad passed away. And with that came a lot of peace, because he was in a lot of pain. There was a lot of suffering with that. So we were all sad, of course, but we were also happy that he was no longer in pain and he was at peace. We were at peace with it. Then 4 months after my dad died, my mom died suddenly. She was coming home, and out in the country out there, there's water on all sides of her driveway and the main road that turns and kind of goes as a T into the driveway. The water that spring and summer was up equal with the road. So when winter came, and then you add snow on top of that, and then there was just a little bit of a blustery night with some snow coming down, and it just looks like snow all the way across. So you can't really tell where the road is and where the water is. So my mom had turned, we were able later to tell that she had turned thinking she was turning into the driveway, but really she turned out onto the water and her car went underwater. We didn't realize this until the next day when my brother went up to the farm up there and realized that the garage door hadn't been shut from the night before. Her car was gone. Everything was exactly as it was the day before. So, called the authorities. They came out looking for her. It was about 5 days. She went into the water Sunday night. And then they found her car on want to say Tuesday or Wednesday in the water, but her body was not in the car. So then they didn't find her body until Thursday. So it was a big emotional roller coaster from Sunday or Monday morning when we realized she was missing, thinking maybe she's just missing, to then, okay, we found the car, she went in the water, and then to finding her body that Thursday. So with that came a lot of grief, trauma, everything that comes with that. So, and then also being postpartum, having an infant, having 6 kids, I was still working as a hospice and home health nurse at that time. I'd stopped working at the church, was hospice and home health. I'd only been working there about a year when both my parents died. So I was still nursing with people who are also dying, which added added sadness and grief on top of that. So then about a month after my mom passed away, I was at home and there was a mailman and he rang and I had to sign for something. So I signed for it and brought it in the house and opened it up. And here was a debt collector claiming that we owed thousands of dollars on credit card, that I was like, this isn't ours. We don't have a credit card like this. So my husband got home. Well, long story short here, come to find out, he's always liked collecting baseball cards and wrestling figures and just kind of collecting different things. And this hobby had spiraled into an addiction, and he was buying baseball cards with multiple credit cards that I didn't know about and that he wasn't paying off. So add to the stress of having a newborn, postpartum, both working, parents both died, short time together. And then now to find out we are in a lot of debt and marriage is spiraling out of control. So then after that, then 2020 hit, and we all know how that was just great. So then we had the social distance learning while we're still both working full time, trying to do that. Still having an infant because she's not quite big yet. So that was a very dark time in my life. I was just trying to survive the day, cried a lot, did not want to get out of bed a lot of days. When I did get out of bed, my husband and I, we would just fight round and round. It was just not good. I mean, we knew we wanted to work through it. We knew that we wanted to stay married. We just didn't know how that was ever going to happen. So we struggled like that for about a year. And everybody else was dealing with issues, lockdowns, couldn't go places, kids couldn't get out much. Just a lot. So then in March of 2021, so like I said, it'd been a little over a year since I discovered this debt, things like that. And then we went to Retrouvaille in March of 2021. I knew when this came out, like I knew that I wanted us to go to Retrouvaille for us to try to reach some sort of healing with this. I knew that it wasn't just him, that we both had issues that we could work on. And at that point, I was willing to work more and not to blame him so much. So we went to Retrouvaille, which was a very good experience. I recommend that for anybody who is going through difficult times in their marriage. You don't even have to hit, rock bottom. It's just a very good connecting tool for marriages. So we went to Retrouvaille. And then about a month later, I discovered life coaching. I had never heard of life coaching before. I didn't know what it was. I just happened to stumble across it. I think it was a God thing because Sterling Jaquith, who I had kind of been following off and on through minimalism, and she did some things like for moms, and she had a podcast called Coffee and Pearls. And I liked it because it was short and very basic and simple. And I could listen to an episode while I was folding some laundry. And I realized that, oh, after a while, like she hasn't had a new episode out in a while. I wonder why that is. So I went and I listened to like her last one. And here it said that she was starting a new thing. She discovered life coaching. She lost 70 pounds in less than a year, and her life was totally changed. And that's what she was doing. So I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to sign up for this program because I'm interested in this. I want to lose some baby weight. And so I actually joined the life coaching. It's called Masters that they do. So I joined that on April 7th, 2021, because I wanted to lose weight. And what I discovered was it changed my world completely. I lost weight. I lost 40 pounds in about 3 or 4 months, but I also gained back time in my day. I realized that I don't have to sit and overwhelm all day. I realized I don't have to control other people in order to be happy. And it just completely rocked my world. And so after being in Masters for quite a few months, I decided this is what I want to do. I want to change nurses' lives by realizing they have the power to control their own thoughts, and they can take back the control in their lives. They can show up how they want by controlling their thoughts. I said this was a completely new thing to me. I never heard this before, or maybe I have, but it never sunk in that our thoughts are the things that create us to have a feeling. Our feelings then cause us to have an action, and our action gets us a result. We think that the circumstance in our lives, like if our husband just helped out more, or if we weren't short-staffed all the time at work, then I could be happy. But in reality, it's our thoughts about the circumstances that then create our feelings that then cause us to be unhappy. So I said, this was just completely eye-opening to me, life-changing. I obviously am not a perfect person. Since finding life coaching, that's not how it works. But I would say it has really changed my life drastically. I am a calmer parent. I listen more to my husband. I'm a more supportive spouse. I said I lost weight, which is a plus. And so, yeah, I just decided I want to help nurses do this, and specifically Catholic nurses. So I think that's a little bit of my story. It's my background. It's how God has given me hurdles in my life to put me exactly where I need to be right now to help a person that he's going to put in my path, to help them and give them the tools they need. So I am excited to get started, and I am excited that this is my first podcast episode, and I'll hope you will join me for more of them. You can go check me out at catholicnurse.com, or on Facebook. I am at Catholic Nurse Coach. I also have a Facebook group. It's a private group for Catholic nurses. So if you're a Catholic nurse and you would like to join that, go ahead and like that page. And then on Instagram, I'm Catholic Nurse Coach 2022. So I will be seeing you soon. And in the meantime, I'll be praying for you.